All right. Yesterday, last night, ICE agents rappel from Black Hawk helicopters into Chicago for a major raid. Some have indicated with the reports that 300 ICE agents partook in taking down a 5-story apartment in the Chicago South Shore neighborhood. So I think it's only fair that we pull up this video segment here because there's a lot to take apart, a lot to address. So let's pull up this video here, and then we have a whole conversation. And plus, earlier this morning, something happened in my neighborhood too.
A group of federal agents gathered on the south side early this morning. This is at 75th and South Shore Drive. This is in the South Shore neighborhood here in Chicago. The FBI tells us this was an immigration enforcement operation alongside U.S. Border Patrol.
The FBI says it's helping the agency at the direction of Attorney General Pam Bondi. Now, we have reached out to Border Patrol, the Department of Homeland Security, and city leaders to get more information on this overnight operation. So we're going to keep you updated as we learn more.
So let's talk a little bit more because it's another video segment here. Let's pull this up.
Led 300 federal officials to that apartment complex. Some even rappelled down from Blackhawks onto the rooftop in order to help secure that perimeter. Now, they were searching for suspected members of the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Of course, TDA has been designated as a terrorist organization under the Trump administration. Now, it was the biggest show of force that we've ever seen on the ground here. We had agencies, FBI, Border Patrol, ICE, and ATF all involved here, and they were all looking for targets in that same exact building. It was a 5-story building. It was a tall task for them, and anything could have gone wrong. But luckily, the operations went pretty smoothly. Preliminary reports show that about 30 illegal immigrants were arrested in this operation, some of them suspected Tren de Aragua. Now, we talked with Chief Gregory Bovino, who's running the operations on the ground for many of these ops in Chicago, and he had some words for people that are pushing back against his operations. Take a listen.
How about you live in the apartment next door to Tren de Aragua members that are trafficking and prostitution, guns, drugs, and taking advantage of American citizens in a violent way? Why don't you live next to them and then see how much of a Gestapo or a Nazi we are?
Oh, horrible choice of words there, buddy. Come on. Horrible choice of words there. Continuing on.
It's hard to see, but there's a helicopter right there on this building. And that helicopter has just inserted snipers for the protection of all these federal agents you can see entering the building. What they are after, 6 particular individuals associated with Tren de Aragua. They say these individuals are responsible for dealing in guns, long guns and handguns, as well as drugs. The helicopter is now just taken off. This is really an unprecedented show of federal force. Almost 300 agents coming to get control of this building and the people inside.
They detained about 24 people, searching only apartments where no rent was being paid. So far, we don't know if they got the high-value targets they've been tracking. One guy did display a Tren de Aragua tattoo. But the new detainees are being held and processed at this ICE facility in Broadview.
It's hard to see.
So, all right, let's get the big takeaway here. All right, as it stands, we got 3 different numbers: 3, 6, half a dozen. I have to wait, correction. Sorry, 2 numbers, 3 and 6. All right, so 300 agents for, I guess, the round number of 3 and 6 individuals rappelling from Black Hawk helicopters, and this was a massive show of force. Now, why is this important? Over the weekend, ICE was seen patrolling in the downtown area of Chicago, especially on Wacker Drive, Michigan Avenue, State Street, by Trump Tower, by other high business areas in the city as a full-on show of force. It's the first time, I think, in a long time, since, if it's to be fair, we could look back at 2020 for the lockdowns, in which we saw heavy military presence patrolling the streets of Chicago. This also calls out Mayor Brandon Johnson and his quote-unquote promise to stand in front of ICE, as he has said that he would, which he has not. Now, there is a lot of talk from Mayor Brandon Johnson's office, as well as Governor J.B. Pritzker, about conducting lawsuits or legal fare against Trump and his administration, but as I have said before, Trump is very familiar with the legal rulings of the court. That's his backyard, that's his territory. He knows full well what he is doing. But in my opinion, this is the opening salvo, the opening of the door to bring National Guard troops in the streets of Chicago. And I keep on repeating this. Yes, of course, there are gang members, there are criminal organizations on the street corners of Chicago. There are bad guys out there who are hurting and killing innocent people and destroying communities. Yes, they need to be stopped. But if you want to stop the heart of corruption, boy, what a sight it would have been instead of on that South Shore apartment if we got a modern day version of the Blues Brothers in which ICE, the FBI, the National Guard were doing that to City Hall. Well, I guess that's a bridge too far now, isn't it? I mean, what a sight it would be. But you can't have corruption hold corruption accountable. Then again, there's a little bit more here because there was a response from Mayor Brandon Johnson himself. So let's go ahead and pull this up here.
An overnight targeted immigration enforcement operation in the South Shore neighborhood. Can you tell us anything more about that operation?
What we simply know is that, you have masked men with large weapons that are simply disappearing people from their homes. We're talking about children being stripped away from their parents. We're talking about workers that are being targeted. Just this last weekend, we had 2 public school teachers detained by ICE. We had the incident that you just referred to in a suburb right outside of the city of Chicago. We had a CBS reporter who had pepper.
I want to be clear on this. So, Marco Rodriguez, you're saying, why don't you try voting for a change? Here's the problem with voting in Chicago. All right. The last 2 elections, voter turnout has been abysmal. And why is it abysmal? It's because people have given up on the electoral process for city elections. When I hear the phrase, "Oh, the people of Chicago voted for this," no, the people of Chicago have given up on the electoral process for city elections. The people have given up on the politicians. The people have given up on the idea of that somehow these lawmakers are going to have our best interests at heart. You forget, and a lot of people forget, remove Washington, D.C., and Chicago's the most corrupt city in the country. We're number 1, and it's a horrible thing to be first place about. It's not that the people of Chicago are voting for this. It's that with the decades of corruption that was started and can be argued from the first Old Man Daley administration, it's been a long uphill battle for Chicagoans to get actively involved. Now, things did make a very interesting change on November 5th, 2024, when Donald Trump got elected, when 2 districts in the city of Chicago flipped red for the first time in a long time. And as someone who has been living in Chicago for generations, that's never happened. My family's never seen anything like it. Oh, how I wish the elder members of my family could actually see this, because they would be talking and talking and talking about, oh, how the Old Man Daley machine would be crying and screaming right now. And they'd be laughing at the machine too, as they should. But who knows? 2027 will be a very interesting election year, knowing that Mayor Brandon Johnson is mayor 6.6% in approval rating and also 1.1, or has led the city to be $1.1 billion in the hole.
Balls shot at her while she was just simply doing her job, and tear gas being spread throughout these individuals who are protesting and resisting these, what we are clear about, egregious acts and an overreach of
Lawrence Johnson, I'm going to rewind this, but I just want to let you know, you're going to go see the White House counselor right now. Get up, go. Instead of vote harder, fart harder.
Mayor, we are learning about an overnight targeted immigration enforcement operation in the South Shore neighborhood. Can you tell us anything more about that operation?
What we simply know is that, you have masked men with large weapons that are simply disappearing people from their homes. We're talking about children being stripped away from their parents. We're talking about workers that are being targeted. Just this last weekend, we had two public school teachers detained by ICE. We had the incident that you just referred to in a suburb right outside of the city of Chicago. We had a CBS reporter who had pepper balls shot at her while she was just simply doing her job, and tear gas being spread throughout these individuals who are protesting and resisting these, what we are clear about, egregious acts and an overreach of the Constitution. And so we're very firm in the city of Chicago about protecting all residents, and I've put forth a couple of executive orders to do just that. There is no one in this city that believes that what this president is doing is on the behalf of working people in our city.
You can tell the mayor, obviously, look, there's been allegations that he's been having panic attacks. Also, shout out to the Jack Acid. Why doesn't Brandon Johnson run for president and fix all of this? Listen, the Jack Acid, we might have differing opinions, but come on. Don't put that evil out there in the country. Don't you put that evil out there, Ricky Bobby. Don't you do it. Not on my watch. Get up. Go see the White House counselor. Go. Tell her what you just said. So I want to break it down just a little bit more because there's a few more things I want to point out here. First of all, everyone in the city are not going to have the same universal opinion on what's happening with ICE, because there are people in Chicago, there are different factions and groups that are welcoming this with open arms. There are many people in Chicago that are on board with ICE. Sorry. For a minute there, I thought somebody was knocking at my window. Yes, there are people who are supporting and are in full agreement with the actions of what the Trump administration is doing. So I want to pull up this article here. This is from Newsweek. So what to know? Nearly 300 agents and officers descended upon a five-story apartment complex in Chicago's South Shore neighborhood, where U.S. Border Patrol Commander at Large Gregory Bavino has claimed members of the Venezuelan gang. The outlet reported that roughly 30 undocumented immigrants were also taken. Also, the number has risen up now, so there's been an update. Were taken into custody, several of them suspected of gang affiliation. The commander of the ground went on to state that the operation proceeded very smoothly after federal officers and agents spent several days training for the targeted enforcement. Bavino, who is overseeing the ongoing operation in Chicago, added that residents of the South Side should expect an increase in federal presence in the area. So, here's where all of you should sit down and hear old Uncle Kit give you a little bit of a talking to. Let's have a little chat. Early this morning, excuse me, as I was prepping up the show, drinking my morning coffee, I heard not one but 3 helicopters flying in my area. Now, I'm not going to give away my location, but I got to tell you, folks, it was pretty intense. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, going to 8 o'clock in the morning. There were helos flying around, helicopters en masse. And as it stands right now, the south side of Chicago has been seeing more of an increase of a federal presence. ICE is here. And Mayor Brandon Johnson has been called out and has failed in his quote-unquote response in dealing with Trump and his administration. This is only the beginning. The idea of a sanctuary city has now failed. The sanctuary shelters, in my opinion, will be shut down, if not promptly right away. We'll begin the process too. And anyone that was in full support of the sanctuary city policy is going to be called out as well. This is going to be a huge domino effect that's going to impact everyone as we close 2025 and go into 2026. Excuse me for a minute. Operation Midway Blitz, which was launched earlier in August, is targeting most of the violent criminals and gang members as it stands. But this also means that nonviolent migrants will also be targeted. And this is where the person who has a hammer and everything looks like a nail comes into effect, because innocent people can also be detained. There's no stopping this now. There's no preventing this. The Trump administration has also made it clear that immigration enforcement in the city will proceed as Operation Midway Blitz continues on. They are not closing it up anytime soon. So what some people are saying right now, Governor J.B. Pritzker has been one of the only voices. I noticed Mayor Brandon Johnson speaking, but let's face it, Mayor Brandon Johnson, in my opinion, will be a one-term mayor. Governor J.B. Pritzker, this is his test because he is slated to be one of the primary candidates running for 2028 for the Democrat nomination. At least he is to be selected. There could be others, but he is one of the top contenders. And he has indicated that nothing that Donald Trump has done is making Illinois safer. Well, knowing that Chicago has a long, sad history of corruption, knowing that there's a long, sad history of abuse and violence in our cities, and with some recent headline news, most notably with the smash and grab at Louis Vuitton, as well as gang fights and knife fights that are apparently happening in the downtown area of Chicago, I find them to be a little bit suspicious, knowing that there are cameras all over the place. But in this day and age where everyone has a smartphone, yes, now I won't be able to play those videos, but there was one video going quite viral in which there was a gang knife fight happening in one of the downtown areas of Chicago. This is only getting started. The National Guard option is not off the table. And what comes next is going to shake the foundations of Chicago. This is only the beginning. And Hardlands Media is going to be here to cover it. We're going to be talking about it. This is going to change everything within the city.